Hello and welcome to Wrestling and Everything, Coast to Coast, with your host, Buddy Sotelo Esquire and effervescent Evan Ginsberg. But Evan, you brought us a very interesting guest for tonight. Not all wrestling tonight we're going to talk about. So introduce our guest, please.
Absolutely. Scott Melesky is a prolific author. Yours truly has written two books, so I marvel at somebody who has done a dozen plus. Am I correct?
Yeah, I contributed to 13. It's going to be 15 by next year. So I'm just
Wow. Wow.
grinding.
And your specialty is sports, but not relegated just to sports. So why don't we start with the non-sports? Tell us about some of the titles you've worked on. It's a very eclectic mix of work that you've done.
Yeah, thanks, Evan. Actually, the one I did recently was called Take Back Your Power. It's kind of like a self-help book. It's me and 21 other authors, but my story was kind of really personal. I had a basically appendix, basically my intestines kind of bursted. It was really scary. I lost 30 pounds in 9 days. I was out of work for 3 months, and it was scary at the time. I didn't think I was going to make it, to be honest with you. But after I survived it, I thought I could inspire people because like my wife was like my number one fan. The nurses were incredible and the doctors. But it was
How long
something that
ago? How long was it? How
this
long
was
ago?
about 2017, about 10 years ago. And it was scary because after I had surgery, I got infected, so I had a machine connected to my gut for a month after that.
Wow.
And I'm a crazy sports fan, so I went to two baseball games. I went to San Diego and a Dodger game with that machine, but I did that because I didn't want the machine to own me. I wanted to get through it, so it was a little risky, but I felt like that story could inspire people. And the good thing is, I think it really has. I think I've got a lot of good feedback from that story. But that was hard because it was a non-sports. Usually I do sports, but that was more personal and more to inspire.
What is it like to lose 30 pounds in 9 days?
It was so scary. I felt like one of those cartoons. Like my arms were shrinking. Like I had the big strong biceps before the surgery, and by the time the ninth day, my arms were like nothing. It was like spaghetti. It was
Wow.
so depressing. I couldn't eat too. They put a tube in my throat for 9 days too. So
Mm.
my stomach's growling, and they're feeding me through a machine, and it was horrible. But again, I felt like take this, hour by hour, second by second. I'm going to get through this, but it was pretty grueling to go through to go through it. But I'm glad I owned it by now making it into an inspiring chapter for people.
Wow, wow, that's really amazing. And so, have you had any complications since then?
I mean, knock on wood, I've been good since then, but I still there was a breathing apparatus I had for 3 months. I kept that as almost like a souvenir to remember how far I've come from that because it was so even when I came back from the surgery, I have this machine to breathe through for 3 months to get my lungs. But yeah, it was brutal.
Wow, wow. Well, that's really amazing. So, what are some of your other books that you've written? The
Yeah, I'll do.
non-baseball
I'll
books.
say we'll do more happier ones. Another one that I contributed to is called My Baseball Story. It was the first baseball game I ever went to. My uncle Jim, my cousin Mike, my brother Tom, and my dad. And it was a Mets Phillies game in '81. And I was 7, so I knew nothing about the strike. I just knew this is my first baseball game, and I was played for a little league team called the Mets. So in the game, I wasn't wearing my little league uniform, and they beat the Phillies, who are defending champions. So I saw Pete Rose and Mike Schmidt, and for the Mets, saw Mookie Wilson, and it was awesome. So I did like I wrote in that book kind of like from a 7-year-old's perspective. So it was really fun. But that was a takeoff point. And the cool thing was about 20 years later, I covered a Mets Marlins game and for a newspaper that I was an editor for. And I found the seats where I sat with as a kid. So it was a total full circle moment back then.
I'll tell you a first baseball story, true story, first baseball game story. I go to Shea Stadium. I believe it was 1969. I could be wrong, but and I'm with my father and my grandfather. My grandfather had never been to a baseball game, knew nothing about baseball, immigrant from Russia, and Bob Moose is pitching a no-hitter against the Mets. Now, my grandfather thought this happened every day of the week. He had no idea that this was special. So we're going deep into the game. It's the late innings. All of a sudden, the Mets fans are rooting for the Pirates because they want to see a no-hitter. Now, Roberto Clemente, who is as great a baseball player as ever lived, makes this unbelievable diving catch to save the game, save the no-hitter. And the whole thing was just magic. And my grandfather had no idea that this was anything out of the ordinary. The first game he ever went to. So, and I was
So
at another very famous Mets game the day that Pete Rose and Bud Harrelson had the famous fist
Oh,
fight.
that
Yeah,
was,
I
yeah.
was at that game.
Oh, wow.
So I was an avid sports fan back in the 70s, 80s, and I sort of lost my taste for team sports when the big money came in. Um, the salaries, the merchandise, the sneakers, all of that. I never quite felt the same after that. I still go to baseball games. My cousin comes in from England. Ironically, he loves it more than I do at this point. What's your take on the corporate greed side of sports today?
That's a great question, but it's tough because I mean, I know you're from New York, but I'm a Red Sox fan, so I have to, that's, try to get me in trouble. But I'm actually okay with it because with the Red Sox, they were always a team that they never opened up the wallet to get the players, and I felt
Hmm.
like the way it really helped them in '04. They call themselves, the idiots, but I felt like that. Those Red Sox, they finally opened up the money to get the players, to get the Shillings, the Pedro, the Big Poppy, and I feel so I was okay with that. So I know I totally understand your perspective, but I think that's just where it's going. Even like where I am now, I mean, I live in LA, so I see the Dodgers. Yes, they have all those players. They just got Tucker, but I look more just at this. Like, I feel like I'm a student of the game, so like I totally understand about the corporate stuff, but I still get excitement from watching all the sports too. I mean, I do a lot of basketball and football as well, so for me, I still feel that electricity when your team is going against somebody else, it's your best against the other person's best. So I still enjoy it.
So Scott, just this is total coincidence, but I happen to be wearing
Oh
my
wow, it's okay.
yeah, I just put that on today because it's the first day of baseball season, technically after the Super Bowl. And I would say this, that I like baseball, but I love the Giants. It's the only sport I follow all three sports, but I really don't know that much about baseball, but I know everything about the Giants. My uncle had seasons tickets back at Candlestick, and I go back to the like Johnny LeMaster days
Oh yeah.
and Atlee Hammaker, and I've had a chance to meet Vida Blue while he
Oh
was still
nice.
around, and I have a picture of mine taken with Matt Cain.
Oh
So
wow. That's awesome.
I'm very much a Giants guy. So anything you want to talk about the Giants, I'm here to talk about
Yeah,
Giants
yeah. I'm not
baseball.
offended because I think I got this covering sports for so long. I have my teams, but I don't. Like I still love like the athletes, like because we're all because I was in another interview where they asked me like what team did I hate, and I told them even though I'm a Red Sox fan, I don't hate the Yankees. Like every team is going for the same thing. So yeah, I've been to two Giant games. I loved it. The only thing that got me in trouble is I wore a Giants hat, and my wife's family's Dodgers, so they saw that
Yeah,
Giants hat. Yeah, and
that's
I
still a
got a little
rivalry.
bit in trouble, but I loved it. I mean, she even admitted too. We loved the baseball. I love how Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, Gaylord Perry, Juan Marichal, like the Giants, they have such a history in baseball themselves. And the two games I went to, I totally enjoyed it. And I had my Giants cap too, so
And then
I
there's
can appreciate.
the generation that won the World Series in
Yeah,
five
in 5
years with like
years,
Buster Posey
exactly.
and Matt Cain, of course, and Lincecum and so forth. And I mean that was a magical time here in the Bay Area when we had those three championships. And the way things are going, I don't know if we're going to get any other championships anytime soon. So I mean, it's the only time they won in I'm 58 in the 3 years that they won. That's the only time I've seen them win one, and I kind of knew. I went to all three parades
Oh
too,
wow, that's awesome.
and yeah, I kind of felt like I better soak it in because there may be another time, another 50 years before they win something, and they're kind of on that pace right now. I'm sad to say the Dodgers made all the right moves,
Yeah,
and they
they're
did it
good.
within the rules of the system. I very ironically, I had lunch today with one of my good friends who's a super Dodger fan. He lives up here, but he goes down 4 or 5 times a year to LA to watch the games. And, he was saying you can be jealous, but you can't be mad. And
Sure.
I kind of feel that way about
Yeah,
the Dodgers. I'm jealous. If the Giants could have signed Otani, we would have.
exactly. So it's my
If we
version.
could have, signed all these Freeman and we had Snell, and then the worst deal maybe done in professional sports, we're still paying for Snell to win another
Hmm.
World Series with the Dodgers this year. It's how that somehow got managed out by Farhan Zaidi is one of the big mistakes of professional sports in history, I
I
think.
hear
But
you. I know.
but I'm kind of bitter about that. But you know what? As soon as pitchers and catchers report on Wednesday, I'm gonna get excited again. I can't help it. I always get sucked in to baseball. So what to you makes baseball special over the other sports? Tell me
Yeah.
your.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll tell you, I have a tradition. Actually started a couple years after that Mets game I went to, where I've seen the Red Sox every year in person since '83. The only times I missed them was '84 and 2020 with the pandemic. For me, it's just the traditions, and I love like I'll see the world champion Red Sox. I'll see the last place Red Sox. I feel like they're my team, and I just love just the tradition. How you see the generations, they hand the baton to each one. I have a niece that loves the Red Sox. She's in LA, but she said like, T.O. Scott, I love your passion for Boston. And I have an uncle who went to Northeastern and loved the Red Sox, and he had passed it on to me. So I just love that, and the history of the sport too. Again, I love the history of the other ones, but baseball just goes back to the 1800s. I mean, it's incredible. And I know, Evan, you collect autographs. I do too. And I have a Harry Hooper and Smokey Joe Wood from that 1915 Boston team. I love how you could trace it. Joe Wood started in 1908, and that was 5 years after the American League started. But how it has such a rich history that continues.
So
Wow.
you mentioned before about the Red Sox and Yankees feud. As somebody who is not as emotionally invested in team sports, a couple of seasons back, the Knicks got through the first round of the playoffs after having basically a horrific quarter century or so. Um, and the fans were literally throwing garbage at guys with the opposing team's jersey in the streets. And I was embarrassed by it as a New Yorker. I don't even grasp that because at this stage, to even see a Knick game would cost 350 or so
Hmm.
dollars to sit in the nosebleeds and almost $1,000 during a playoff game. And so basically, the old school, middle class, working class fans are shut out from it. So I don't quite understand being that emotionally invested where you're going to attack somebody
Exactly.
wearing the opposing jersey. What's your take on this?
I agree 100%. I mean, I go back to that classic Jerry Seinfeld episode where he said it's laundry. He said you're fighting over laundry, like the different uniforms. And I feel the same thing, especially, I mean, I worked in sports information for colleges, and it's like a lot of these athletes and coaches know each other. The fans sometimes I feel like they miss that these opponents are having dinner after the game, or these coaches are catching. They don't hate each other. So I agree with you. For me too, it should still be. I mean, maybe an old-fashioned perspective. It should be fun. You should be able to go to a game and cheer for your team and not get harassed or attacked. It's
Well,
it
I'll
like,
I'll tell you a Boston story. A buddy of mine was going on med school interviews, and he went to Boston. He went to Boston to one of the colleges, and I accompanied him. And I didn't even think about it. Back in the day, I was a huge Knicks fan, and I put on a Knicks jersey. So I'm in a bar in Boston, and a complete stranger walks over to me and says, "quote You have some nerve wearing that in
oh,
here." And he wasn't
that's,
joking. He said
oh
it,
no, I'm
you know.
sorry.
And I didn't even realize I had the thing on. It was just like second nature to throw it on because it was warm and it was a cold winter night. And, it kind of like put a damper on like an otherwise fun vacation because we did have fun in Boston. I mean,
Mhm.
um, so again, I don't quite get the hostility. It's, you
Yeah,
know,
I'm sorry you went through. I mean, I just felt like that too. It was actually in Ohio. I worked for Ohio University in sports information, and the Red Sox were playing Cleveland in the wild card. And I was with my Red Sox stuff because there's a little bit of history. But I didn't think it was that bad. As soon as I like walked out of my office, students were just flipping me off. I couldn't believe it. And whenever coaches started cussing me out, I'm like, are you guys kidding me? Like, it's this Red Sox Cleveland playoffs. But I couldn't believe how hostile and angry. And some of these people that were flipping me off like knew me. I'm like, why are you giving me the middle finger? Like, you know who I
wow,
am. Just because I'm
wow.
wearing a Red Sox. Yeah. So I totally get that.
I mean,
I
there's
wish
a
people would just, yeah,
good-natured way to do it, but sometimes it crosses a line and you're like, am
yeah,
I in danger? You
exactly.
know?
It should be fun. Yeah, I agree.
Well,
I agree with you completely.
we've talked a lot about the tribalism that goes on in wrestling, and that it seems to have permeated all of sports and fandom watching. That it's you can't. There's something wrong about being a fan of the sport or a fan of something in general. You have to align yourself with a brand, and
Hmm.
once you have that brand, you can't waver from it. Not just you can't appreciate the talent of someone on another team because you have to hate them and you have to hate the fans. And it leads to the fights in the stands. It leads to, as Evan was saying, people throwing garbage in. It's really whether it's the Knicks, whether it's the 49ers, whether it's the Red Sox, it's just it's that the sort of thing that you can't just coexist with your rivals.
Hmm.
You have to despise them and hate them for who they are, and you have to hit them in the parking lot from behind, as unfortunately what happened with Brian Stowe,
Hmm. Yeah, it
the
was
the
awful.
Giant fan that went to a Dodger game in LA and got attacked in the parking lot, and he's still debilitated and in a wheelchair
That's
That's
over a
horrible.
decade
Yeah,
ridiculous.
that's
since.
horrible.
I didn't even
Yeah,
know that story. That's horrible.
and every Giant fan knows the
Yeah,
name of
it was
Brian Stowe.
awful.
Yeah, yeah, because of what happened. So your thoughts, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I think a lot of it is from my journalism background. When I was at Syracuse, I remember I'm a freshman and I'm covering, I think it was swimming or diving or wrestling. And they said, Scott, you're covering Villanova. And then you're covering St. John's. And then you're covering Seton Hall. And what my alma mater showed me is that you want to see the importance of the opponent. You're not going to cheer, and the thing I like about got that cheering for Syracuse out of my system so quickly, and it made me appreciate these other athletes to the point even when I go to a game, today I look at the opponent, like who's coming, and appreciate their talent. So yeah, for me it's so foreign how tribal people get because even professional wrestling when I was a kid, I didn't watch. I watched WWF, I watched NWA, AWA, I watched the WCW because I just loved the talent, and for me, it broke away the affiliation of tribalism for me. But yeah, I've never liked it to be honest with you. Even when I was a younger fan, I didn't like booing the other team. I felt like everybody's trying, so it could be like a kid-like perspective, but I don't like how it's so dangerous and personal. I mean, everybody's going for the same thing. Doesn't make them enemies. Even the Super Bowl. I mean, Patriots and Seahawks were both going for the same thing yesterday. They weren't. One isn't good, one isn't bad, but. Yeah, I
Well,
don't
and
like
the person that you're despising and hating might be the free agent of tomorrow.
exactly that wins it
As
for you.
yeah, I mean, as a Giants fan, we hated Daryl Strawberry. We
Mhm.
despised him, but 8, 9 seasons later, he's playing outfield for the San Francisco Giants. So what do you do about that? I mean, it wasn't a proud moment, by the way, as a San Francisco Giant to see Daryl Strawberry out there, but it happens. And so, like, you can't dehumanize these people because
Exactly.
the people that you quote unquote can't stand might be playing for your team, next season, or next trading deadline or what have you.
That's how
So,
it was for us with with Jose Canseco. I remember when Canseco's a Red Sox. We are just like, wow, we were saying the steroid chant 7 years earlier, and now he's our guy. So I hear you.
although turns out he was right,
Hmm.
everything that he had said about how permeating steroids were to baseball. And I guess that's a good question for you. Do you feel that the like Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens should they be kept out of the Hall of Fame for life because of the perception that they were behind the steroid era? And obviously, if what Canseco said was correct, 50% of the players were all doing steroids. Where do you cut off who gets in the Hall of Fame and who doesn't?
Yeah, I think they should. I probably am on the wrong side of this, but I think they should be in, honestly, because it's a Hall of Fame for statistics. And again, not to like get in a fight with Bud Selig, but the ownership and the commissioner was okay with all that
Scott,
back in the 90s.
with all due respect, all Hall of Fames are popularity contests.
Exactly. I
They
agree.
have less to do with the statistics and
Hmm.
more to do with how popular you are. Just call up Bill Belichick and let
Hmm.
him give you a little discussion about how, public perception of who he was had everything to do with him not making the first ballot Hall of Fame. So and Barry Bonds is the epitome of a guy who has all the statistics, but was so unpopular and so
Hmm.
mean to the press. And I'm not saying he didn't deserve to be shunned like he is, because he set the stage for it. He was a terrible teammate.
Hmm.
He wouldn't fly with the team. They never got him to pose with a team picture.
Hmm.
He had his own like lounge and like a private locker in the locker room that like nobody else was able to go near. You know, he set himself up for this.
Right.
But is it something that the sport had? I've always thought that baseball should have the Hall of Fame, but on the way to the bathroom, they should have the Hall of Shame. And that's where you put people like Bonds and
Hmm.
Clemens and McGuire and Shoeless Joe and Pete Rose and so on and so Ty Cobb. You can just put them all, like Barry Bonds, you get like a urinal or something like that. And but what you do is you tell the truth, the whole truth. And even if it's ugly, you have to just say it and then get it over with and then say, you know what, now we've told the whole story. Now we can put your statistics in. What do you think about that?
No, I think you can still do that. You just honor them. You be honest. You don't sugarcoat it. But I mean, with Bonds, I mean, I'll defend him. I mean, he's the all-time home run champion for the bigs. I mean, yeah, he wasn't the friendliest guy by any stretch of the imagination. But I feel he did change the game. I mean, a lot of these were game changers. Pete Rose, Joe Jackson. Yes, they did stuff. But see, where I think it's a little shady is look what's happening now with the gambling. So now gambling is legal. So I mean, in my opinion, I felt like once they did that, Joe Jackson, Pete Rose, they should be in. And same thing with Clemens, Bonds, because now what happened with the Astros? It's like it's kind of changed everything. So I feel like if you're going to change it, then let all these guys in. There's no more moral, standings anymore. Just let these guys in with their stats. And they did do good when they're playing. I mean that the home run chase with McGuire and Sosa that brought fans back. I mean there were positives, with some of the even what Bonds did too when Bonds broke McGuire's record. So I feel they should be in. I agree with you. You should be honest with what they did, but they should be in.
I
Evan,
was
your thoughts?
impressed. I was impressed when Bonds's head was growing from the steroids.
Mm.
That was you know,
What's what Bonsic says, I felt like he didn't need it. Same McGuire, I felt like they would have got in with, and Clemens too. They would have gotten in without the steroids. I mean, they still would have done it. I thought Bonds was on pace of still being
I
a Hall of
mean, you
Famer.
still have to have the skills to hit the
Hmm.
ball. I mean, Hulk Hogan wasn't
Yeah,
going to hit all those home runs just because he had big muscles,
right.
but it certainly helped. It helped the
Well,
power.
and the thing is, this is a big issue for me that a lot of people discount, which is that taking steroids helps you come back from injury
Hmm.
much faster. And so there's no accounting for how many games Barry Bonds was able to play because he was, steroided up and could
Hmm.
recover from injury faster than other players. And, yeah, it's a tough, especially because we're wrestling fans. We know all about like what
Yeah.
steroids has
Hmm.
done to like people like superstar Billy Graham and how the agony that he went through as an older person. Are we prepared as a generation to see Roger Clemens and Brian Anderson and Barry Bonds? So I mean, we already saw Jeff Bagwell die
Yeah. Hmm.
from complications due to a lot of the drugs that he took. And are we ready to see these guys that were our heroes fall apart before our very eyes? We're seeing it with wrestling, but
Hmm.
now will we see it with like football and baseball? Not so much basketball, but then basketball had different kinds of drugs going on for a long time, and we're
Hmm.
seeing that take its toll too. So, I don't know if America can stomach that. You know, that yeah, we want to win at any cost, but when we see any cost that happens out there, like Chris Benoit
Yeah,
and what
that's
the
true.
CTE led to, was
Hmm.
such a horrific murder, or at least allegedly, that CTE damage, probably made him go insane. I mean, there was so much damage there, and it's nobody is a stranger to the fact that he took headshot after headshot after headshot.
Hmm.
And baseball isn't really like that, but a lot of the other sports have that problem, including football and boxing and MMA and so forth. What's your thought about that, Scott?
Yeah, no, I think it's. I mean, I go back to like Mike Webster, Junior Seau. And I met Junior Seau like years ago before he passed. It really is heartbreaking to see them to deteriorate. Because in boxing too, but like Muhammad Ali, people forget all the headshots he took. He was an incredible fighter, but he took so many. Like, 'cause I have all his fights on tape, and he took so many headshots, and it did cause a lot of the stuff after. So, but see, I mean, my opinion, and I mean, I'll bring up the movie they're in, The Wrestler. What makes me even sadder is how the athletes are forgotten. Like, there's that great scene in The Wrestler. Well, not great, but more sad, where it's a wrestling show with Mickey Rourke and gets this picture with Evan, how it was empty. And I've seen that in real life, and I know that was based on a real wrestling show. But like for me, breaks my heart. Like seeing the deterioration, but seeing how quickly you're forgotten. I mean, years ago I went to a UCLA game and Jonathan Ogden was there, and nobody came to see him. This guy
I
was the
remember
Hall of
Jonathan
Fame.
Ogden.
Yeah, nobody. The UCLA kids could care less. And he saw me, my friend, and he came and he signed an autograph, and we were so excited. And then he left because they forgot this guy. I'm like, he's a Hall of Famer. He got UCLA in the Rose Bowl, and he was forgotten so fast. So it's just that double combination for me. It's just they're deteriorating and then they're forgotten, and that kills me. And that's a big thing why I write the books and I get the autographs because I want these people to be remembered. Like, hey, I remember you. I wish more people would. And even that scene, Evan, after I watched that, I was so sad. I wrote to a bunch of wrestlers after that because that scene inspired me. I'm like, I want these pro wrestlers to be remembered. So, I mean,
Well,
it was a
that's
very
why
poignant
we're
scene.
here.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
love,
we
love
do
what
a
you
lot
guys
of
do.
that
I
remembering.
tell the story of that scene in my book, Wrestling Rings, Blackboards, and Movie Sets. I had taken Darren Aronofsky and Scott Franklin, the executive producer and the screenwriter, etc., to a convention, and it was basically, the equivalent of the WWE Hall of Fame. It was Lou Albano and Nikolai, Iron Sheik, Johnny Valiant, Tony Atlas, Moolah, Mae Young, etc., so on. And there were hardly any fans there. And Aronofsky was an '80s wrestling fan, not as involved as we may have been, but he was an '80s fan, and he kept going, Evan, where is everybody? Where is everybody? And it like really saddened him. And next thing I knew, because I was helping, I wasn't writing the scripts, but I was checking for the accuracy of the wrestling content. All of a sudden, that scene was written into the next script revision, and I was on set when they were filming it, and a lot of that merchandise was mine as a vendor and as an agent. And next thing I know, Aronofsky threw me into the scene, which was total improv. And I tell the story in the book, but and as far as the wrestlers themselves, I kept saying to Darren, you should put them in that autograph scene. And he was in the film and he was wavering, wavering. And finally he decided against it because he said to me, Mickey would have looked like a what's wrong with this picture if all the legends were there and he was in the middle of it. So the only actual wrestlers in The Wrestler in that scene were Johnny Valiant, whose hair was not bleached blonde, so he didn't even look like classic Johnny Valiant, and Manny Yarborough, who was a black sumo. Okay, so the others were actually actors playing wrestlers, but yeah, I've been to many conventions that there's just not a lot of people, and these guys are twiddling their thumbs all day, and it's sad because wrestlers sacrifice mightily for their art. I've had wrestlers say to me, Evan, I'm always in pain from all the bumps and you're coming out and you're doing an appearance and there's three people and a squirrel. It's rough. It's a rough
It's because
afternoon.
everyone disdains history. And that's one of the things that you bring forward, Scott. But why is it that like history doesn't sell? The WWE doesn't like to talk about its past, and NFL doesn't celebrate the past except during the Super Bowl week, and baseball, which has the richest past of all, doesn't really. They want to get people into the now, and they don't feel that marketing now has anything to do with the past. What are your thoughts about that?
See, no, it's a great question. I'm a history major from Syracuse, and I've grappled with. I mean, I'm sorry about the term grappling with wrestling, but my whole life, it's been so frustrating for me. Like when I was a reporter, I used to do feature stories, and people hated them. They didn't care less about these people's backgrounds and history, and I'm not sure. I mean, that's why I feel like I have like a soul from like the 1940s. I've always loved history. Like when as a kid, I would chase down Bob Feller and Ted Williams and Gordie Howe, and they loved me. And they're like, "How do you know about my career? You were even born yet?" But I was always in the minority, and still am. Even like I remember the Gordie Howe was a lot like that wrestling scene. I went to a car dealership for Gordie Howe. I was the only person there with him and my father. That was it. And Gordie Howe was great. He spoke. That was like my first interview as a kid. I probably was in seventh grade. But nobody came to see the great Gordie Howe, and I couldn't believe this.
That's ironic, because my first big interview that nobody else showed up to was with Orlando Cepeda.
Oh, wow.
And I sat with him for 45 minutes, where it was just me and him. Nobody showed up. Even the press that was supposed to show up. I was with a tiny little sports newsletter called The Bounce. And me and Orlando Cepeda like was at this giant table with like this giant bowl of nachos, and nobody else was eating them. It was just like me and him for 45 minutes. But it was I got the interview of my life.
Yeah,
but it was my first one. But it's like you and Gordie Howe. You're like, where is everybody? Nobody wants to talk to a legend.
Yeah,
it is pretty amazing that people don't understand it. But I like you treasure when we have on the show people who go back like Mickey Doyle, and when we had
Lanny
Princess
Poffo.
Lanny Poffo and Princess Victoria and Len Denton, the grappler, and we've had some real classic folks on here, and it to me is, if you don't have the building blocks, how can you reach the top of today if you don't have the foundation of yesterday that to build onto? I mean, that's baseball's great thing, is it goes back to the 1800s, but nobody cares about that, or such a select few do. And I do admire the fact that you're digging not only into old history, but your own personal history and what made baseball special to you. And that's to be commended, because it takes a lot of guts to do that. I think a lot of people just don't have the courage to sit down and write about something like that. So that's to your credit.
No, I think I appreciate that. And I struggle with that too, because I mean, I love when you say foundation, but how can you, for me too, like Ohtani is doing incredible things, but you have to measure Ohtani against history. And I feel like I get, marketing the new guys, but you have to put them against historical figures. But it seems like we talk about, people are interested. I mean, same with pro wrestling too. I mean, there's so many legends, and you don't hear about them. And it's just like, even the wrestling moves, I don't really hear when I watch wrestling a lot about the moves anymore. I remember as a kid, I used to like with Jim Crockett stuff. I mean, not Jim Crockett, I can't remember, but he used to do the moves. He used to talk about the moves, and then I read an interview.
Gordon Solie was
Gordon Solie. I read an interview where he said he had to get away from it. Like as he got older, people didn't care about the wrestling moves anymore, like the history.
I do.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I mean, I love the difference between an abdominal stretch and an octopus hold. Okay, let's put it that way. I actually care about those things.
Scott.
The difference between an atomic knee drop and a flying knee drop. That matters to me. It really does.
Actually, it was Jim Ross. Oh, sorry, it was Jim Ross I was thinking about. Jim Ross told me how an interview said how he had to switch his calling. Like he used to call about the moves, and he had to switch because people didn't care about Strangler Lewis or any of where the moves came. So he said he had to shift.
Interesting. Growing up in New York, I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I was weaned on great sports writers like Red Smith and Dick Young. Red Smith won the Pulitzer. Now that's a writer, not just a sports writer. In wrestling, it's a very weird wrestling journalist, it's all about a bombardment of information and title changes and minutia. It's not so much about the writing. You could count the great wrestling writers on one or two hands, if that. What is your take on what makes a great sports writer?
See, it's tough because I've I just worked for Yardbarker and I've seen it shifting already. Now it's become hot takes. But for me, I still feel like more like the old school. Like I feel you have to know your history, you have to know your perspective, you have to understand why these people are important, and you have to know the game. When I was a kid, I played all the sports. I wasn't good at any of them, but I played soccer, I played baseball. I feel you have to have the knowledge of that. I know it's shifting more who's the loudest, who's most controversial, but I like the old school writers. I mean, they're the ones that inspired me. Similarly, professional wrestling. I was lucky during the pandemic. I became friends with Bill After, and even when I did some science fiction, Dennis Etchison, he was the fan for the Rampage Wrestling. But both those guys, just the way they wrote, just they give so much perspective on what you're seeing. And even when I write myself, I want to tell a story to somebody that didn't go to the game to see what happened through my story. That's what I feel. You have to get the pulse of the game that you're covering or the athlete. You have to, you're a storyteller.
Absolutely.
So here's something on a more positive question for you. What is your favorite thing to eat at the ballpark? What's your
hot dogs? And even when I went to 3 games in Japan and I got the hot dog in the bento box. But I love the Dodger dogs or the Fenway Franks because it's quick because I still score the games. So I need something that's not going to get messy on my program, or my score sheet. So I can't have nachos so hot dog. I just pop it in for the first inning. I'm good for the rest of the game.
Have you been up to Oracle in San Francisco yet?
Yeah, I've been to 2 games there. Yeah.
What'd you order there? What'd you order there?
Hot dog. Got a hot dog. Loved it.
You didn't have the garlic fries?
No, but I did have I know they had the Ghirardelli chocolate stand there. I grabbed some chocolate too. So.
Did you have the sundae?
Yeah, I did,
okay.
Did enjoy it.
Otherwise, I'd say then you missed out. You'd have to come back up here so that you can have
I still want to come back, but yeah. But the food in San Francisco is great too. And I love the musical history in San Francisco. I love the music before the game, all the classic rock. I thought that was awesome. It was just like kind of two traditions converging. I mean, I love that because in San Francisco, there's so much classic rock that came out of there.
Well, yeah, and I grew up during all of that stuff going on. Like Huey Lewis and the News played at my high school, and I am childhood friends with Jessica Freiberg, who's David Freiberg's daughter from the Starship, Jefferson Airplane / Starship. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've had a lot of run-ins and coincidences and contacts with. But hey, Evan's like Mr. Music in New York City, so. Between the two of us, we've got the music scene covered, and we'll think of you when we need LA acts to kick in for us.
Appreciate it.
So, which of your books are you proudest of?
It's funny. I kind of treat them, even though I don't have children, they're almost like my kids. Like I don't have like a favorite, but I look at maybe the one that had the most impact. And the interesting thing is, I love writing the old baseball stories. I think the one I did. To Take Back Your Power when I was hospitalized. I think that was my favorite one because so many people wrote to me after that and were like, Scott, I was so moved by your story. Or I cried after I read it. Like, how did you? And it's weird because when I wrote it, I kind of desensitized myself to it. I don't want to be triggered the whole time writing it, but I feel like Impact, that might have been my favorite one, even though it was about a horrible thing in my life, but just because it inspired people after they read it.
That's great.
So. Do you have future plans on it sounds to me like you won't stop writing until somebody grabs the keyboard away from you and hits you over the head with it.
That's actually very accurate. No, actually, it's funny we talk about music. Eric Gray, he's one of my friends. I wrote 2 chapters for his book. It's coming out, I think, next year. One is my first concert I went to was The Who in Giant Stadium back in '89, and the other concert is
Wait, you're a friend of Eric Gray's?
Yeah.
Oh my God. He's one of my friends too.
Oh, nice!
I was actually going to talk to you about his stuff in the his stories, his baseball stories.
Eric's awesome.
Oh my God, that's an amazing coincidence.
Yeah,
I went
so
and
cool.
he did a reading of his book about a year and a half ago.
Oh, nice.
Up here, because I'm in Marin and he's also in San Francisco.
Oh, very cool. Yeah,
And
Eric's a
so,
good guy. He's a
wow,
good
I
friend.
will say when I talk to him next, which is anytime I want to on Facebook, I'll mention that you were on our show and I'll throw the link over to him because I'm sure he'd love to see. He should have been part of this whole thing. And maybe
Yeah,
one of these days.
he's
I
awesome.
The other irony too is that I do a baseball only show once a year, but
Yeah.
I
Oh, nice.
don't do it until like April.
Okay.
So maybe if I do that again, I'll have you and Eric on
Yeah, definitely.
as guests for that
I'd
too.
love to be
So
on it.
sorry to interrupt that, but when you said Eric's name, I was like, boing! Wow,
Oh, that's
we
okay.
have him in common. We have that in common. That's
But Eric was
great.
great because I did an article on the Who, and then I just saw Mana at the time when I submitted the Who story, and I post everything I go down Facebook. And Eric saw that. He's like, "Could you do a chapter on Mana? They're a famous like Latino rock group," and I did that too. So it's gonna be, I think, in one book or two my chapters, and then I have another self-help book I know Evan can appreciate this. I taught for 10 years, and the self-help book is a prequel to my when I was hospitalized, and I taught preschool for 10 years, and it really helped me become a better person, better writer to impact. And I have another baseball book that I'm contributing to. It's on Korean baseball, and I did a chapter of Ha-Sung Kim. I even got to talk to him last year, which is really cool, through his
Did you get to
translator.
talk to Chung Ha Lee?
No, I wanted to. I couldn't get a hold. He actually was in transition still. I didn't get to. I wanted to, but Hassan Kim talked to him because he played with him in Korea. But yeah, Hassan Kim I talked to. But no, I'd love to talk to Jung Ho Lee. Maybe in the future I could talk to him. But
Well, if you come up to San Francisco to
yeah,
interview him, go to game, then I'll come out and hang out with you. That would
yeah,
be
no, appreciate it. And then you would appreciate this too. The last book I contributed is about the '76 Raiders, and I did a chapter on Tom Flores, so that was really fun to do too.
How is the
wonderful.
baseball scene in Korea? I'm going to be in Korea September 19th for my brother-in-law's wedding. He's a noted Korean actor,
Oh,
Han
nice,
Fa Kim, and
very cool.
um, so
The
is it
Korean
worth
Brock Lesnar, right?
is it worth
It is actually.
seeking out baseball over
You
there?
should do it. I actually wrote a chapter, it probably a little controversial, where I compared the statistics of the NPB in Japan and KBO in Korea. And I feel like there's a lot of criticism, like they're not big leaguers, but if you looked at historically with both countries, they are. Like if you look at the greats of Korea and Japan, they're just as good as America. And I went to 3 games in Japan, and the quality was amazing. And even Murakami, the White Sox, I saw him as a Swallow 2 years ago. So they're coming up quickly now. It's not the Mr. Baseball days of the '90s with Tom Selleck. So yeah, I would definitely. You should go. The one thing I will give a tip: try to get the tickets now. The stadiums are very small. I think it's like 25,000 capacity,
Hmm.
but Seoul has, I think, 5 teams within the city. So if you could do it, you should definitely go see this.
I wonder how the wrestling scene is over there. I've only been there once.
Oh, okay. That's a good question. I know Japan has a really good wrestling. I'm not sure
Oh
about
yeah,
Korea.
yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah.
What's your favorite sports book? Mine isn't technically a sports book. It's called The Tao of Muhammad Ali by Davis Miller, which is about this writer's friendship with Muhammad Ali. It's a beautiful book. And again, it transcends sports, which I like more than, bombardment of statistics and, RBIs and homers and all of that stuff. It's more a personal story. What's your favorite sports book?
You might be surprised by this. I mean, my father's a Notre Dame grad, and I got to meet this coach before he passed. Is Jerry Faust had a book I think in the late '90s, and I actually met him in '05. We talked about it. His biography, I liked it because it was so endearing. Like Faust struggled at Notre Dame and Akron, but the way he just talked about his life, I call it my decompressing book. My wife is like, you've read that book like 100 times, like the spine is falling off. But I love how Faust is so honest with, having integrity, having morals. Yes, he didn't get the wins and losses he should have. I mean, he got more losses than wins, but I like how the dignity he had at Notre Dame. And the cool thing was when I met him at Notre Dame in 2005, he was like a grandfather figure. Like he just talked to me for like a good half hour and just was like, thanks, Scott, I'm glad it inspired you. But I actually like that book more for inspiration. I know historically he wasn't a great coach, but the Jerry Foss book is probably my favorite one.
And my
I
nomination. Wait, I get to say my favorite sports book, don't I? Well, I don't know if you consider it a sports book. But I still consider Have a Nice Day to be one
Oh
of the
yeah, that's a
best
good one.
reads
That's a
I've
very
ever
good.
had, especially because I was just going through being a manager. starting out as being a manager in wrestling, and I was like, his whole like grind through training and getting himself started was the most realistic thing I've ever read, and I was like nodding my head like every page. I was like, yeah, that happened to me, or I know somebody that happened to, and for him to verbalize, he's so good. He's so good, such a good author as far as like saying exactly what's on his mind or what he was going through. That's not as easy to do as people think. It's like, I mean, you with your recovery book, you had to capture all the emotions that you felt at the time and give words to them. And that's not. People seem to think that just appears in thin air to people, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of concentration and a lot of digging into your own soul to come up with those words. Am I correct about that?
Oh, it's true. Yeah, it felt like an out of body experience, but it did take me. I did take breaks, like the baseball ones, football. I was machine writing, but when I had to write about my own experience, I had to take sometimes a 20-minute break. Just okay, Scott, this is tough to relive, but I think what drove me was like I kept thinking like hopefully it doesn't sound egotistical, but people would be impacted by this story, even though I don't want to relive this, and even I warned my wife. I said maybe you don't want to read this, because she was there the whole time watching me. But
Do you have
yeah,
kids? Do you have kids?
oh no, I don't have. I have some. I'm an uncle, but yeah, not a father. But it is something that I think if I did, well, I mean, I definitely would show my nephews and nieces when I'm older, just more the inspiration. But it was tough to write. I still think it was the hardest thing I've ever written in my career. So.
Wow.
Mick Foley wrote a baseball book. Do you know that?
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
Oh
when did it come
yeah,
out?
yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
definitely want to read
Yeah,
it.
it didn't do nearly as well as his wrestling books, but it's out there. And when I was a kid, I got some years on you guys. The book that was notorious was Jim Bouton's Ball Four. I
Oh
read
yeah,
that
that's a great one. That's
because
a good.
that kind of like opened the door with the groupies and the drugs and the partying,
Mhm.
and that really wasn't discussed much prior to that. Yeah.
Yeah, Vaughn
Wow.
was a good guy. Yeah.
So tell me what's your next project that you're going to focus on, and what do you what plans do you have for the future?
Yeah, I'm in a bunch of, I'm in the baseball researchers and football. I'm hoping to do another project. They're still like going over like which teams they want to cover. But like with Eric too, like I might do another music thing. I definitely want to talk with him too. But for me, like I just love life and anything that's going to inspire people, I'm going to do. But again, the one I'm working on right now is the prequel uh, to the my hospitalization, where I became a teacher for 10 years, and that's pretty cool reliving that because. Like, I mean, Evan, you're a teacher too. It's a hard feel. I mean, when people used to like stop in, they thought I was just playing with the kids or just laughing, but it's not. It's a very difficult job. And I had great mentor teachers that pulled me through. And I even do some teaching on the side right now where I'm coaching teachers myself. I do that besides authoring too. But it's such a tough job. And I tell the teachers I'm mentoring, like, be patient and trust yourself. And, but, you have to be on every single day as a teacher.
Yeah, my brother's retiring from teaching after 30 years.
Oh,
So
wow. That's awesome.
I hear a lot of it. And I myself was a professor, an adjunct professor at Cal State Hayward.
Oh,
So
nice. Very cool.
adults though, so it's a different story. But everybody has so much more drama too when you're teaching
That's
adults,
true.
as opposed to kids. It's a little bit the drama is different kind of thing. But so why don't you let people know how they can get a hold of you through social media and where your books can be found, so forth.
Yeah, sure. All the books are on Amazon.com. You can find that. And then you can find me, just Scott Melesky. I have a LinkedIn account and Facebook. And if you just, search me by name, you can contact me that way.
Quickly for our audience, just go and rattle off the titles that you have.
Oh, there's a, there's a lot. I mean, actually, it's hard to have them all. They're like my forgotten kids, but I have one on Milwaukee County Stadium. I worked on Yankee Stadium, the Japanese baseball tour, the Latino broadcast announcers. I interviewed Pepe Iniguez and Jorge Jardín, excuse me. Uh, wow, Take Back Your Power, My Baseball Story. I know I'm forgetting one. Oh, the Fenway Effect also contributed that too. So, but
Wow.
maybe I could give a link to. Yeah, that
Oh,
one. I feel like
absolutely.
they're my forgotten children. I should have had the list in front of me, but I'm a kind of person too. When I finish a project or finish an article, I put it like behind me. It's almost like it's an old journalism mentality. You're always goes to the next story. So I'm proud of my work, but I kind of like put it, put it aside and go on the next project.
Awesome. That's great. Well, it's really been wonderful having you as a guest. As I said, if we're going to do that baseball show in a couple months,
Yeah.
I'll look you up and see if you're available for it, because that could be kind of fun. Evan, you have any last words or anything you want to plug or promote right now?
Oh, I mean, well,
No, go ahead, Scott.
oh no, I was just no. Thank you guys for having me on. It's been an honor.
Oh, our pleasure, our pleasure. Um, basically, check out my social media and check out 350 Days, Wrestling Then and Now documentaries. The book I plugged already, and that's pretty much it. I'm not hard to find. I'm on social media battling geniuses every day of the week. Oh my God. I try to avoid the politics. It's a little hard sometimes, but I try to. Nobody budges an inch. It's kind of futile. So it's better to be positive. And speaking of that, I wrote a little piece today about all the great Latin jazz and salsa artists that I saw live over the years. Tito Puente, Ray Barretto, so many of these guys over the years, Mongo Santa Maria, um, you know, Larry Harlow, the Fania All Stars. This isn't a new thing that artists sing in their native tongue. It's really nothing new. And I've also seen tons and tons of great African artists who sing in a variety of languages, from African, you know, tongues to French to English on down. And great music is great music. It doesn't matter what language it is. My favorite song is "The Waters of March" by Antonio Carlos Jobim, and it's poetry, and he wrote it in Portuguese originally, and it's just stunningly beautiful. But he also wrote it in English, so then you can really grasp how gorgeous that song is, and great music transcend music as a language, so the xenophobia that's out there it's really ugly. And
Look at something else to be mad about. Don't worry. Tomorrow there'll be something else that the right wing is mad about that has nothing to do with music. It'll be the way somebody ties their shoes the wrong way, or it'll be something about diet soda, a diet soda ad.
You're freezing up, Russell. It's hard to see and hear.
Oh, so let's wrap everything up. And it's great to have you on the show. And we'll have you on again soon, Scott. I really appreciate everything that you brought to us today.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Okay. Thanks, Scott. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Russell.